Good morning, children.
Good morning.
How is the weather there? Is it raining
Yes, ma'am.
heavily?
No.
No, here it is raining heavily. Anyways, let's continue with the topic. Last class we were learning about adaptations of different animals, and you know that these adaptations are very important for the organism to survive and reproduce in their habitat. How can you define adaptations, Michael? Power failure there? Or you didn't switch on the light? Natural light I can't see there. What happened? Yes?
There's no light inside.
Okay. Tell me what are adaptations?
Adaptations are the physiological, morphological, and behavioral attributes that let an organism survive and reproduce in its own habitat.
Okay, good. What are the different adaptations that we find in a kangaroo rat? Gayatri, why some of your videos are turned off? Rijas, Anthony, Anna, Mahek. Okay, Gayatri.
When external source of water is not there, it uses the water, which is a byproduct by the internal fat oxidation.
Okay, another point, Evelyn. Another adaptation.
Ability to concentrate urine so that the reduce of water will be the loss of water will be reduced by to removal of excretory products.
Okay, for excreting the different waste products, they require only less water and they produce very less amount of urine. All these are adaptations to conserve the water present in its body. Then we also learned about the adaptations found in cactus plant or in desert plants. Any two adaptations? Malavika, tell me any two adaptations so that we will proceed to the next.
And they have sunken stomata. Stomatas are arranged in deep pits.
Sunken stomata.
Stomata are arranged in deep pits so that water is not lost by transpiration.
Number 2.
Presence of thick cuticles.
Okay, presence of thick cuticle and sunken stomata both will help in reducing the rate of transpiration. And we also learned about CAM pathway, crustacean acid metabolism carried out by desert plants, and then they have deep penetrating roots, leaves are reduced to spines. So with all these adaptations, they can manage to survive in a desert. So let's see more adaptations shown by living organisms. Children, when did I ask you to prepare for the test paper? Microbes in human welfare? I haven't told, then come prepared on Monday. Okay? I think I told this week. I might have forgotten. Anyways, it's a small chapter, you can manage. So come prepared on Monday. Adaptations of mammals. So here you can see a mammal, walrus. We call it as walrus. Just a minute. Okay, children. So let's see the different adaptations of mammals. And what you see in the picture, not walrus, it is seal. Mammals from colder climates have shorter ears and limbs to reduce heat loss. This we already discussed in our previous class, because when compared to their volume, they have a larger surface area. That point we had already told. To reduce the loss of water from its body, those animals, smaller animals, they have got a large surface area when compared to its volume, and hence small animals are rarely found in colder climate. And here the point is that mammals found in colder climates, they have shorter ears and limbs. Purpose is same, to reduce the surface area of its body. They have smaller ears and the limbs are also small, so that the surface area can be reduced, and this is known as Allen's rule. Allen's rule states that Mammals from colder climates have shorter ears and limbs to reduce heat loss. Having shorter limbs and smaller ears or shorter ears will help in reducing the surface area. So less amount of water will be evaporated from its body. Aquatic animals like seals have a thick layer of fat. So a blubber, I think in whale also we have learned about the presence of a blubber. So they have a thick layer of fat which you call as blubber just beneath their skin, and this blubber acts like an insulator. We too have a layer of fat beneath our skin. Majority of the animals, you know, they are having this layer that not be very thick but a thin layer of fat is present even in our body, which will act as an insulator to prevent the heat loss, to reduce the heat loss from our body. But a prominent layer which you call as blubber, that's very thick layer. And this thick layer of blubber, when it is present below the skin, will prevent the loss of evaporation of heat from our, will reduce the heat loss from its body. Just like we are covering a body with a blanket and the heat is retained within the body. In the same way, they have got a thick layer of fat beneath the skin which will help in conserving its body heat, and the thick layer of fat you call as blubber. Then we are moving on to the physiological and biochemical adaptations shown by organisms. Archaebacteria, this also in detail you have learned in class 11. Archaebacteria, different types of archaebacteria. Do you remember the categorization? Halophiles, thermoacidophiles, methanogens. So depending upon the habitat where they can survive, we categorize them into different types. So archaebacteria, they have a special type of cell wall when compared to other organisms, and which will help them to survive in these extreme climatic conditions. You can find them in hot water springs, deep sea hydrothermal vents, where the temperature is more than 100 degrees Celsius. And in Antarctic waters, when we say Antarctic region itself, you know how cold or how low the temperature is. So there, where the temperature is below 0 degrees Celsius, there too you can find some fishes, because they have adaptations which will help them to survive there. All fish, they cannot survive there, but those organisms or those fishes having some unique or special adaptations will be able to survive there. Many marine invertebrates and fishes, so they can even live at greater depth. So normally we have already learned that as we go deeper, even light penetration is also less, and productivity of the plant. So they're very rarely, or the species of plants found there will also be very less. The number of plants found are also very less. And there also you can find some of the marine invertebrates and fishes where the pressure is 100 times less than the normal atmospheric pressure. Sorry, greater than the normal atmospheric pressure. So in such conditions also you can find organisms. So I'll repeat again, we were learning about the different adaptations shown by organisms, and you know that it's because of these adaptations organisms are able to survive in their habitat and reproduce and continue their race. If they don't have all these adaptations to suit the habitat, they will perish. So we were discussing about some of the adaptations. In the previous slide, we learned about seal and also, just a minute, seals and mammals in general. And mammals in general, those which are found in colder climates, they have shorter ears and limbs, and both these are meant for reducing the surface area, and so that the heat loss can be reduced, and you call it as Allen's rule. And then the case of blubber also we discussed. Blubber is a thick layer of fat. We too have, mammals have a thin layer of fat just beneath. You have learned about adipose tissue and all in class 9. So we too have a thin layer of fat beneath the skin. Even when you peel the skin of even birds, like hen and all, why the skin is being peeled nowadays. Earlier it was not like that. We used to cook that skin layer also with if when you peel off that skin, or when the skin is removed, you can see a layer of fat is there just beneath the skin, that is also removed off, so that as such, this chicken is lean meat, but when you remove that skin layer along with this fat, then again the fat content of the meat will be reduced. And not only that, so many, not in all types, but in certain types we say some hormones are also being injected into these skin of these birds. Anyhow, to make it less fat, or to make it more good to eat, more healthier to eat, the skin along with the fat layer is being removed. And in human beings, we too have a thin layer of fat beneath our skin, which will act as an insulator. But in case of seals, mammals like seals, they have a thick layer of fat, which you call as blubber, and they act as an insulator and will help them to conserve their body heat, as if they have covered their body with a blanket. You know what happens when you cover your body with a blanket? Your body heat will be retained within and it will not escape out, and you feel warmth, or you get warmth. Now, some more adaptations we discussed about archaebacteria. This you had been learning from class 11. So these are found in all the adverse climatic conditions, and they are found in hot water springs, deep sea hydrothermal vents, where the temperature is more than 100 degrees Celsius. And based on the habitat where they are living, or the conditions which they can withstand, you categorize them into halophiles, thermoacidophiles. They can withstand greater amount of salinity, they can withstand high temperature, and even methanogens. Methanogens means those archaebacteria that can survive in which places, children? Which conditions? Methanogens, unmute and speak. Starting with M. Marshy areas. And methanogens are also found in, which makes it highly useful for human beings. Where it is found? In the last chapter we learned, in the dung of cattle. And they help in the production of biogas. Okay. Many fish are found in Antarctic waters. There the temperature is below 0 degrees Celsius. All fishes cannot survive, but there are some fishes who can, or which can survive in such a cold temperature. Similarly, marine invertebrates and fishes, they are capable of surviving at greater depth in the ocean, where the pressure is more than, or 100 times more than, the normal atmospheric pressure. Now moving on to other adaptations shown by animals. At high altitudes, that is more than 3,500 meters, we feel altitude sickness, like mountaineers, people who climb mountains. So they find this altitude sickness, and the symptoms include nausea, tendency to vomit, heart palpitations, heart starts to beat faster, and they will feel so tired, fatigue, palpitation of the heart, nausea, some of these symptoms of altitude sickness as we go to greater heights or at high altitudes. Especially when you climb a mountain, you experience altitude sickness. So this is because as we go higher, the atmospheric pressure will decrease. The more we go higher, the atmospheric pressure will be decreasing. So as a result, enough amount of oxygen will not be available to us. So sufficient amount of oxygen won't be there. And you know what happens when enough oxygen is not there. So that is why you suffer from altitude sickness. But later, like in the beginning, as we climb up, as we go higher and higher, you start to experience, gradually we acclimatize, we get adjusted to the situation, and the body will develop some adaptations. Your body recognizes the situation and it develops some adaptations to get adjusted to those conditions. Your body compensates for the low oxygen availability by increasing the production of RBC. You know that RBC helps in one of the most important functions of RBC? Yes?
Oxygen transport.
Helps in transporting oxygen, and the breathing rate is also increased so that more amount of air can be taken in, and at the same time decreasing the binding capacity of hemoglobin. Once it reaches the cells, you know that oxygen is taken in, and this oxygen, once it reaches, you know, oxygen combines with hemoglobin, and once it reaches your tissues or cells, this has to break down to oxygen, or it has to split into oxygen and hemoglobin. So in order to ensure sufficient supply of oxygen to the cells, the binding capacity of hemoglobin is also reduced by the body, and these are some of the adaptations developed in order to get adjusted, in order to acclimatize to the low oxygen availability. I'll repeat once again. At high altitudes, so we learned as we go deeper, the reverse happens, but as we go higher, the amount of oxygen available, or the oxygen availability will keep on reducing. So that is because the pressure, the atmospheric pressure is getting lower as we go higher. And due to this reason, when we climb up high altitudes means not a small area or climbing up steps, but when we go beyond 3,500 meters, we find, or we develop, mountaineers, they develop a altitude sickness. And symptoms include nausea, the tendency to vomit, the heart starts to beat faster, and fatigue, tiredness, because sufficient oxygen is not reaching your body, energy cannot be released, you feel so tired. And later means gradually, your body starts to acclimatize, to get adjusted to the prevalent or prevailing situations by developing some adaptations or by adjusting to the low oxygen availability. And how do our body gets adjusted, or what are the changes taking place in our body? The RBC production will increase, and the rate of breathing also will be improved. At the same time, the binding capacity of hemoglobin will be reduced so that it can easily dissociate and reach the different cells. Oxygen can easily get dissociated and reach the different cells to carry out different activities and release energy. Now coming to behavioral adaptations, the physiological, biochemical and morphological adaptations we learn. Now let's see some behavioral adaptations. Desert lizards, they bask in the sun. Basking in the sun, hope you know, they remain in the sun. Like, you know, foreigners, when they come to Kovalam and all, they bask in the sun. And they want to get their body tan. That is for different purpose, okay? But here it is different. And desert lizards, they bask in the sun. That is for getting and absorb heat when the body temperature is low, because they are adapted to, you know, as such in a desert, the conditions or the temperature will be high. But in case if the temperature goes down, okay, so if the temperature goes down, they will, or below, they have, because these desert lizards, as they are surviving in a desert, their body is adjusted to high temperature. But whenever the temperature goes below its comfort zone, or if it is below then that is required, then what happens is it will bask in the sun so that the body will absorb heat and the body temperature can be balanced. But when the ambient temperature, when the surrounding temperature starts increasing and it is coming back to the normal, and then what it does, it will move to the shade. Now it doesn't need, the animal doesn't need to bask in the sun anymore, because already the temperature has got back to the normal. So that is a change in behavior, like basking in the sun. Always they don't bask in the sun. Only when the temperature goes down, they go bask in the sun so that they can retain the normal body heat, or they can, their temperature can be brought to the comfort zone. Because not always, as I said, only when you know that being in a desert, or these organisms or lizards are in a desert, the temperature as such is very high. But whenever it goes below, then what is required for this organism or for this lizard, they will bask in the sun to maintain the normal heat. Some species are capable of burrowing into the soil to hide and escape from the above ground heat. On the other hand, when the heat or when the temperature is peaking up, or when it is increasing, So some of the animals, they make burrows and they go inside these burrows so that, you know that below, when compared to the surface or when compared to the temperature present on the surface of the soil, deep beneath in the soil, the temperature will be, I'm not saying it will be very cold over there, but comparatively it will be better. So they make burrows and they remain there to hide away or to escape from that high temperature above the ground. Okay, so that is another behavioral adaptation. They are not bringing about any changes in its internal structure, physiology, or in terms of the biochemical mechanisms of their body. But just by showing some behavioral changes, they adjust to the surrounding temperature. Okay, now we are moving on to the next topic, that is population. So any of the slides you would like to see, children, quickly? Would you like to see?
Yes, sir.
Okay. From the beginning? Beginning means what I learned, what we learned today.
No, ma'am.
Which one you want to see?
Physiological and biological, biochemical adaptation.
Okay, okay, wait a minute. This one, no? Yes, Sefi?
Yes. No, ma'am. Next slide.
Before this one or after this one?
After.
After.
No, ma'am. This slide. This slide.
Sefi, what happened? You joined late, child?
No, ma'am. I was there. The last point I couldn't make.
Okay. When you finish, let me know.
Okay, ma'am. I'm done.
Okay? Yes. Now I think we can quickly summarize the points that we discussed. Children, turn the videos on. I will not mark attendance. Nidhi, Nia, Mehek, if you want attendance, it should be turned on. Afterwards, don't say that I was present but no attendance. Okay. Rijas. Okay, you may start summarizing the points. We started with the adaptations found in mammals.
Mammals have shorter ears and
They have shorter ears.
limbs to reduce heat loss.
What do you call this rule?
Allen's rule.
Allen's rule. So they have, and all mammals, is it mentioned?
Mammals in cold region.
Mammals from colder climates, they have shorter limbs and ears to reduce heat loss from the body, which you call as, or which is known as Allen's rule. Yes, Steffi, next point.
They have a thick fat layer beneath their skin, known as blubber, which helps in not losing heat.
Which acts as an insulator and prevents heat loss from the body. Okay, then next adaptation, Nidhi.
Archaebacteria are found in hot springs and deep seas.
Where the temperature is?
Hydrothermal vents.
Hydrothermal vents. Hydrothermal vents means from deep from the sea, some water will be splashing out, which is very hot, which is more than, the temperature will be more than
100
degree Celsius. Okay. Nevin, another point.
Many fish exist in the Antarctic waters, which is like temperature below 0.
I'm not able to hear you properly. Yes. Yes, Nevin. Repeat.
Many fish are there in Antarctic waters, which is below 0 degrees Celsius.
Okay, good. So fishes survive in Antarctic waters where the temperature is below 0 degrees Celsius. Anna? You change the location, Anna. Okay, tell me the answer.
At high altitude place, we feel altitude sickness.
Why? Why we feel that?
Because
Look here and tell, not anywhere else. Why do you feel so? Huh?
altitude is about
At high altitudes, as we go higher, what happens?
the
Oxygen availability will be less. What else will be less? Atmospheric.
pressure.
Okay. And what are the symptoms? Naureen, what are the symptoms?
Nausea, fatigue, and heart palpitations.
Nausea, fatigue, and heart palpitations. Then what happens? So in the beginning, you experience altitude sickness, but later what happens? Meenakshi?
Gradually, our body will get adjusted into this situation and
Okay, acclimatize. Okay.
RBC will increase and also the breathing rate increases and the capacity of hemoglobin will decrease.
Binding capacity. Binding capacity of the hemoglobin will be reduced, RBC production increase, and even the breathing rate also will be improved. Then what else we learned? Evelyn, what else we learned? Unmute.
In desert lizards, they'll bask in the sun when the temperature is very low, and they'll move to shade when temperature increases.
Yes. So desert lizards, when the temperature goes below the normal, they'll bask in the sun, so to maintain their body to that normal temperature, and when the surrounding temperature starts increasing, they'll move to shade. They don't need to be in the sun again. Then if the temperature is too high, what they do, Nandana? Some desert animals, when the temperature goes high,
they burrow, they form burrows and they hide there.
They make burrows inside or in the soil, deep in the soil, and they remain there so that they can manage the high temperature above ground. Okay, we'll continue and we are going to start with a new topic. 5 more minutes now. New topic, that is population. So organism that part we have completed. Now we are moving on to the next main topic, that is population. So we will have a just introduction. 9:20 is the time, no children? 9:20. So 5 more minutes we have. I'll just introduce you to the term population and the next period we'll continue. Populations. A population is a group of individuals of the same species that live in a given geographical area, share and compete for similar resources, and potentially reproduce. So you learn the definition as it is. It's a group of individuals belonging to the same species. That is important. They belong to the same species. They belong to the same species and they are not living somewhere else. They are not scattered. They are living in the same geographical area. And these organisms interact with each other. They share because being the members of the same species, their requirements are same. So they share the resources. At times they compete for the same and they reproduce and they potentially reproduce. That is a definition for a population. A population is a group of individuals belonging to the same species that live in a given geographical area and they share and at times compete for the resources. Similar resources, as I told you, they are members of the same species. So their basic requirements or their requirements, food requirements, all those are same. So they will compete for the same. Sometimes they will share depending upon the availability and they are capable of reproducing too. They potentially reproduce among amongst each other. All the cormorants in a wetland. Cormorants means here you can see in the first figure, it's a bird found in aquatic areas, not like, what to say, they feed on the fishes present in the water bodies. Different colors are there, black color, white color, different types of cormorants are there. So all the cormorants found in a wetland. So together you can call it as a population of cormorants. They belong to the same species found in a given geographical area. Similarly, rats in an abandoned dwelling, an abandoned house, nobody is using it or nobody is living there. That is why rats are found over there. So all the rats present in that area, there might be rats somewhere else also. In many other places you can find rats. But when you say population, we calculate it based on the area where they are present. So within that area, the rats present will constitute the rat population of that particular area. Teakwood trees in a forest tract. So everywhere else, many places, many other forests, many other areas, you will find the same type of trees. But when you say about population, we calculate or we consider the trees present in that particular forest tract. Teakwood trees or the population of teakwood trees in that forest tract. Then bacteria in a culture plate. Bacteria present in a culture plate. So we are considering that culture plate alone and the bacteria present there will constitute a population. And lotus plants in a pond. Lotus will be found in several other ponds, in several other water bodies, but we are calculating the number of lotuses or number of lotus plants present in that particular pond. So that constitute the population of lotus plants. Population ecology is an important area of ecology that deals with or that links ecology to population genetics and evolution. So population ecology, as the name suggests, this is a branch of ecology which links ecology with population or population genetic. Different aspects of population like population genetics and evolution will be linked with ecology under population ecology. Once again, a population is a group of individuals belonging to the same species that live in a given geographical area. That is very, very important. Same species and living in a given geographical area, very important, because the same individuals or the members of the same species you can find in diverse habitats or different places, but that will constitute different populations. So whenever we say population, we consider the number of individuals of the same species found in a given geographical area, those who share or compete for the similar resources and potentially reproduce. Cormorants in a wetland, rats in an abandoned dwelling, teakwood trees in a forest tract, bacteria in a culture plate, and lotus plants in a pond, etc. And population ecology, as I said, it's a branch of ecology that links population ecology with population genetics and evolution. Okay, so population ecology. What is population ecology? Naureen?
Group of individuals of the same species, and
population ecology.
It is a branch of ecology that links ecology to population, genetics, and evolution.
And what is the definition for population, Nandana?
A group of individuals belonging to the same species present in a given geographical area that compete or share for the resources that are needed to reproduce. Or
Okay, thank you. So we will continue next class. Thank you, children.